DEXON Systems is based in Budapest, Hungary. So the products are all designed and engineered within Europe, making them TAA compliant. DEXON's been around for over 30 years and have installations all over the world with a wide variety of customers, spanning applications, a lot of applications that involve video walls. So think video wall, scaling, seamless matrix, these sorts of applications. So, control rooms, traffic centers, digital signage, video walls, these sorts of things. Looking at our product families, we've got them grouped into 3 major categories: presentation matrix, video processor, and video wall controllers. I'm going to start out by reviewing our presentation matrix and video processors as a group, as a whole, and I'll close with the video wall controllers. So starting off with our DYMAX Pro, it's a 3-in-1 solution that combines routing matrix, presentation matrix, and video processor into a single platform, into a single chassis. So think of it as like, you traditionally might have a matrix router feeding into a video processor. We're eliminating that 2-step process and combining that into a single platform, which is pretty exciting, and I'll show you how we do it. As far as hardware, the DYMAX Pro is a 4K modular hybrid system. We have 3 different chassis sizes currently. There's a variety of board types that we'll go through a little bit. All 3 chassis sizes are available in 4K 30, so HDMI 1.4, and our 4-rack unit, the small chassis, is available in 4K 60, full HDMI 2.0, HDCP 2.2. Okay, so input boards in the 4K 30 space. We have a large variety of input boards. Our most popular ones are HDMI, HD-Base-T, and 3G SDI. And we have more output boards than what we're seeing here, but this is a snapshot of them. And we're looking at our PIP2, so 2 scalars per output. So that's a real key to this product line, is the scaling is built into the output cards. And again, our most popular card types are HDMI, HD-Base-T, 3G SDI. We also have a preview output board, and I'll show you what that does. But it allows you to preview, take like live preview video of the sources within the software. So pretty cool functionality. In looking at our 4K 60 boards, these are all HDMI 2.0. Full 4K 60, 18 gig. So HDMI on the input side to have the full 4K 60. And the output boards you'll see they're grouped by scaling. So that's a key concept here, is depending on what type of output board, we might get different functionality capabilities in the system. So we have HDMI 2.0 non-scaling output boards. So those are going to give you like matrix router outputs in a traditional sense. And then moving on, we're adding scaling. So we have the PIP2, which is 2 scalars per output. So that would give you like 2 windows or 2 layers, to give you a different terminology, per output. And then we have PIP4 and PIP8, which respectively give you 4 or 8 windows per output. Okay, so moving on to the core features. At the core of the DYMAX Pro, it's a matrix switching backplane. So that means any input source can be routed to any or multiple outputs. So we talked about the different modes. We can run in presentation matrix mode or video processor mode. So if we're in presentation matrix mode, which is a software selection, by the way, we're going to have switching effects. Think of it as a scaled router, right? You're routing inputs to a single output, and the scaling gives you constant sync to the display, so you never lose sync during switching. And you also have different effects you can choose from, like crossfade. You can set the duration, like a ½ second, 1 second, clean crossfade between sources. You can do a seamless switch. It's like a cut on a production switcher, where it's an instant cut. You never lose sync to the display. And in the PIP2 example, since we have 2 scalars, you can do a full screen live video input, as well as a PIP overlay on top of that in this mode. And the key here is these can be mixed with different resolutions, and all the scaling's built into the outputs. So you determine, what resolution you want that output to drive to the display, whether it's 4K, 1080, 720. you name it. You can do custom resolutions for LED applications, and whatever sources you route to that display will get scaled up to what you've set the output scalars to. Okay, the other mode is video processor mode. So when we set up a system as a video processor, we're going to group multiple outputs together to create a video wall, one large canvas to place our input sources on and move them around, resize them as we need to. So in this case, we have a 3x3 video wall, and we've taken live video inputs, placed them arbitrarily on the wall. They can be sized and positioned any size you want, any position you want, and then you just save those as layouts in the software to recall later. One thing to note, separate audio switching. So there's an independent audio matrix. You can route audio independent from video, and your audio sources on the input side would be either embedded HDMI or 2-channel analog audio. You choose that during setup, and then during switching, you can have audio follow video or route separately. I also mentioned extension boards such as HDBaseT. The key to note here is, and we do have receivers to go with those, the key to note here is even on the HDBaseT output boards, the scalars are still on the output card itself. So there's no need in the DEXON system to have scalars built into the receiver. So that means you can hook up HDBaseT direct to your display, whether you use our receiver or direct in the display, you still get all the same scaling and windowing video processor capability. DEXON builds all of the hardware for reliable 24/7 operation. Control rooms is one of their major markets, and so all the products are designed for 24/7 operation, 10+ years. There's many installations around the world that have been in service, still running after 10 years. The chassis are extremely rugged and reliable. There's metal card cages for the cards to go in, very secure. All frame sizes are available with a redundant power supply option. And you'll see in the bottom left here, there's 2 different LAN ports, so you can have the system on 2 different networks at the same time. And there's also USB and a DVI. That's for if you want to hook up a keyboard, mouse, and monitor directly to the frame to configure or set it up that way, you can. Otherwise, we would access the software, and the DYMAX software is accessed over the network via HTML5, right? So the software lives right on the DEXON box, right on the DYMAX box. You type in the IP address in your browser, and it pulls up the HTML5 software. So, platform independent, you can log in from any device. So one of the core concepts of the DYMAX Pro platform is this ability to create different sections. So we've talked about it can be a router, it can be a presentation matrix, it can be a video processor. And how we define that is by creating sections. So in this example, I have a video wall that is a video processor type section, and that uses here outputs 5 through 8. And then I have a DYMAX section that's a presentation matrix type using outputs 1 through 4. So that type is going to define how those outputs are acting. Are they acting as single outputs, routing an input to them, or are we joining outputs together to create a video wall windowing capability? And you'll notice the inputs are the same in both sections. So the inputs can be shared across multiple sections. You might use these for, I'm going to feed the video wall, plus I have with outputs 5 through 8, and then maybe I have some auxiliary monitors over, in another room that want to see those same sources, but just be routed to individual displays. Or maybe have multiple video walls that want to share different sources and be controlled independently. So once you define those sections, you can create users, and different users can have access to different sections. They can have different privileges within the section, like maybe you just want them to be able to recall layouts or modify layouts, but not configure outputs. So setting the video wall up is very easy. There's a grid option. There's 2 different options. One of them is grid. And in this example, like I said, I have 4 outputs. So I get options like 1x4, 4x1, or 2x2. And in this case, we're controlling those outputs as a group. So they'd be all the same resolution. I also have the ability to set the video wall up in individual control. So this gives me individual control of each output. So each output can be moved around in relation to each other to do kind of funky, abnormal bezel compensation. Each output can be different resolutions in this case. enable or disable HDCP separately, total individual control. So once you have the video wall set up, you're gonna see software like this. Straightforward. I've got the video wall in the middle with my layers, my windowing. I have my sources on the left. So I grab a source, drop it on the wall, and it creates a new window with that source. I can then click it, move it around, resize it by grabbing the corner. And once I'm happy, I'll save the layout at the bottom or recall out a different layout. And there's some more advanced options like cropping or changing aspect ratio. You're allowed to overlap outputs. You can change Z-index of layers, these kinds of things. But as far as getting image on the wall, it's pretty straightforward. And so here's an example, or here's a screenshot of how the presentation matrix section would be different from the video processor. In this case, it's like a router. We're routing inputs to outputs. So you see this grid format with tabs at the top. So I have a tab for the main source that's going to fill the screen. I have a tab for my PIP source, which can be sized and positioned how you want. And then a tab for audio, so I can separately route audio. And again, we have layouts that we can save on the bottom. So in summary, the DYMAX Pro is a 3-in-1 solution that integrates routing matrix, presentation matrix, and video processor into a single platform. With the scaling built in, it's an extremely powerful system that is simple and easy to use. All right, moving on to my last section, the DXN 5000 video wall controller family. As you can see, the chassis look pretty similar to the DYMAX Pro because they are. They're the same size, they're similar cards, they're different. They're similar cards, HDMI, HD-based-T inputs and outputs. I'm not gonna review that again, we talked about it. But the core difference in the DXN 5000 is the built-in Windows computer. This platform has a built-in Windows computer, and that Windows desktop becomes the background of the whole video wall. So whether you have a 2x2, a small application, or you have 48 outputs to displays or more, that Windows computer stretches across the entire video wall. So what that ends up looking like in a system topology is you've got the DXN 5000 in the middle. Similar to DYMAX, we can bring in HD-based-T inputs, HDMI, SDI local inputs. And we also introducing a new type of input here, computers shared over the local LAN. So these are like, we call them net computers. You install a little DEXON, a piece of DEXON software in those computers, and then they can be configured to share their desktop over the network onto the video wall. And then on the output side, similar to DYMAX, we've got Cat6, HD-based-T outputs, HDMI outputs to one or multiple video walls driven from the same processor. So I did mention there's a Windows computer built in. So the DXN 5000 is not just a computer with capture cards. This is a custom-built proprietary chassis, proprietary backplane. And what that means is the HDMI, DVI, these physical input types are written directly to the scalers on the outputs themselves, and they bypass the CPU, that Windows computer. That's the reason for that, is so you can have full CPU horsepower to run Windows. That's the whole idea. You have Windows applications you want to run natively on this box and mix with other types of inputs. We talked about the remote PC visualization. So this is bringing in a computer over the network as an input source onto the wall. And another type is IP video, right? We can bring in IP cameras, IPTV boxes like this MediaStar decoder or encoder, would be sent over the network into the DXN 5000 decoding system and mixed and matched with the other sources. So, to visualize all these different types of signals coming together, we've got this video wall, the background is the Windows desktop. Some of our input sources might be Windows applications mixed with physical inputs like HDMI, HD-based-T, mixed with these net computer inputs, bringing computers in over the network. The windows can be overlapped, placed any size and position we want, and saved as layouts, and also mix in these IP TV cameras. So as far as controlling the wall and the computer built in, any of the workstations in the control room you can run the DEXON remote operator software on, which allows that user from a remote computer to take over full control of the Windows machine in the DXN 5000. So take over full control of that Windows machine driving the wall, as well as place in our IP streaming inputs, net computer, HDMI type inputs as well. And we also have a third-party open TCP API. So if you want to, integrate with a third-party control system for a more basic everyday, control of the system, recall layouts, that kind of stuff, that is available as well. So again, for the DXN 5000, this is our control room product. So the typical applications are, security camera operations rooms, traffic control centers, network operations centers, emergency operations centers, those sorts of applications for the DXN 5000.